Hello guys, how are you? Welcome to the first video, only video I think, let's see, of the week number 6. I hope everything is going well with your lives guys, hope everything's good for you and any difficulties that you may have, uh, you have been able to overcome that and to deal with that. So my best energies for you. Well, my friends, as usual, I would like to start by sharing with you a short poem. This time, this poem is by Alfonsine Storni, and it's short but quite meaningful. It is called Oveja Descarriada. Oveja descarriada, dijeron por ahí. Oveja descarriada, los hombros encogí. En verdad descarriada, que a los bosques salí, estrellas de los cielos en los bosques pasí. En verdad descarriada, que el oro que cogí no me duró en las manos y a cualquiera lo di. En verdad descarriada, que tuve para mí el oro de los cielos, por cosa baladí. En verdad descarriada, que estoy de paso aquí. Well, as I mentioned, it's really short, but at least for me, it's really meaningful. Especially because, well, first of all, it's a woman, and by the time that Alfonsine Storni lived, uh, there was a time that was a time full of prejudice and full of uh, let's say minimization of women. Women were expected just to get married and have children and raise them and cook and take care of their husbands, and that was it, right? So like adopting this attitude in which she says that she's explorative, adventurous, she doesn't care money. I mean, if she spends the money that she earns, that's her money, and that she pretty much doesn't care a lot if she transcends or if she worries a lot because she knows that life is short, was considered a scandal, right? Like this is not what people expected from her, her family, some of her friends, society in general, right? So this is a poem about that, about just not being afraid of doing otherwise than people expect from you. That's nice. Well, guys, as I mentioned before, during the first 5 weeks, we have been working in a lot of theory and previous, let's say, preparations for approaching a text, right? We have been working on selection, on study guides, all the process that is previous to the text somehow. Okay, so what we're going to do this week is to concentrate specifically in analytical and reading tasks. Okay, we are going to be using a couple of texts, and let's say that this week we're going to employ it for reading them and analyzing them and understanding them and questioning ourselves about the text. So it's let's say not anymore a pre-text analysis, but an exercise of reading them. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one. That is also the one that is going to be used for the first assignment. Okay, so we are going to read The Oval Portrait by Edgar Allan Poe. I am going to upload a link or a file in which you can read this story. This is a short tale by this really famous author. Okay, so first of all, what you're going to do is to read the text. Okay, that's it. Just try to read it. It has some vocabulary of certain difficulty, so I will recommend that you have a good online dictionary at hand, or that you sort of hone your research abilities in order to understand certain expressions, certain geographical things, etc. Okay, so first of all, you're going to read that. Read it as many times as necessary for you to try and get it. I have disposed certain like helps over here, or certain ads. So if you go to the slide number 47, you are going to see, for example, the definition of the word oval. Yes, there are a couple of ideas over there. If you go to the slide 51, you will see where the openings are. If you go to the slide 52, you will see some elusive image to reach and tatter and antique. If you go to the slide number 53, you are going to see like an image that is also elusive to armorial trophies. Yes, that it's the one that is over there. And well, we have like that information in there. So please, you're just going to read that. You're going to familiarize with it. If any of these works that I present here are helpful for you, well, great. Otherwise, like, try to look for some additional resources. Okay. Now, after reading, here comes the questions that you are going to have to answer for the assignments. Okay. So you're going to answer the questions on the slide number 48 and the questions in the slide number 54. Okay, those slides you're going to answer them completely. So you are going to be working in groups of 4 people maximum. You can work more, you can work less, 3 to 1, but the maximum group is that of 4 people. Now let me discuss a little bit about the questions. Let's go to the slide 48, and first of all we have 3 different questions in there. Now if you want, of course, you can research on the internet and somehow amplify the symbolic meanings and all the other different things, but I think that that is not completely necessary. I think that you can just read the tale a couple of times, and that should be enough to answer these questions. So if you want to answer these questions only by your perception, by your understanding of the text, you can do it. Okay. Of course, it's not just anything. It needs to be supported by some evidence in the text and everything, but I think that it's not completely necessary like to look for additional resources. Only with the text and your understanding, it should be enough. Okay. So after reading, question number 1 is: does the word oval has anything to do with life and death? So think about it. Of course, for this you're required to read first of all the text. So after reading the text, do you think that the word oval has anything to do with life or death? You can say yes, and if you say yes, of course, you have to explain why based on the events and on the information on the text, and you justify that. The answer can be as long as a paragraph, right? Or it can be less, 3 sentences, 4 sentences. It really depends on what the story tells you, right? It depends more on that. So as usual, I'm just going to say write as many or as few words as you think that are necessary for you in order to complete or to convey a very full meaning. Okay. Then we have a second one. Why is the story called The Oval Portrait? Again, probably if you go online and type this word, maybe you can find some different words or answers. But I would strongly recommend that you use your own words, right? Try to see what you understood and you answer that information over there. Again, 3 sentences, 4 sentences should be enough. Then we have, does the word oval have any relationship to the story beyond mere geometrical shape? So we know that the word oval, it's, well, this shape that is similar to a circle, right? Somehow, this oval. And I anticipate you, there is an oval portrait, meaning a painting of a woman who is in a frame that is oval shaped. So that is, of course, really obvious. Yes, there is a relationship in there. So my question is there anything additional to that? I mean, the story may have to do anything with ovals additional than that, something more representative, meaningful, symbolic, anything like that. So think about another relationship that is somehow beyond the obvious. Okay, so those will be the questions of the number 48, of the slide number 48. That's easy enough. I mean, they are open questions. Of course, they are not answered necessarily with a word, but if you take a look at the analysis of it, you will be able to work with certain things. Okay. Now let's go to the question, or to the questions of the slide number 54, and all these questions are about the narrator. Okay, the narrator in this story. The first one is, what kind of narrator is presented? It's first person, third person, dialogical, mixed, omniscient. The ones of you who took formats with me will remember that there's another one in there that is the omniscient narrator. So what kind of narrator is that? For that, of course, you're required to take a look at the rating and verify what do you think is the best type of narrator for this. The second one, who is the narrator? Okay, so here you're going to tell me a name, maybe the name of the narrator, or if that is not possible, you're going to tell me who was that person. Let's imagine that he has a profession, that he's a policeman. So the narrator is a policeman who was abandoned by his wife, for example, right? So you either tell the name and some description of the narrator, something about his profession, maybe his personality or something like that, right? Now, the next one, the question number 3 says, why he remains unnamed? Oh, okay, so he actually never receives a name. So for the number 2, the one that I have just mentioned, it's not possible to have a name. You will have to describe him in some other ways. Okay? So the question number 3 is, why he is not given a name? Is this a casual thing, just for the sake of author's whims? Or is there any other intention, do you think, that he's nameless? Right? So you answer that question. Then the next is, can we trust the story he tells? So is it possible to believe what he says? And attention, like, to the question, please. This story is fictional. It never happened. Okay, that is out of the question. So I am not asking if this story seems realistic, or if you think that this story happened at some point. No, that is not my question. My question is, if in the universe somehow of the story, in the context of the story, do you think that it's possible to believe the narrator, right? Why yes or why not? If you think that we cannot really believe him a lot, so you mention why. I mean, there must be some reasons why we don't trust him, like we think that maybe he's telling lies. Or if you completely trust him, well, you have to tell me why. You know, he seems to have a lot of evidence of what he says. He's an authority. I don't know, right? So basically, answer yes or no, and please provide some reasons extracted from the text. Okay. And finally, it says, does the story present any loose ends? What does it mean, a loose end? Any situation that is unresolved, right? Like anything that you don't know what is going to happen next. That is a loose end, or maybe an explanation that was not provided, maybe any part of the story that is not sufficiently explained. Okay, so does it have any of those? Of course, the answer would be yes or no, and if it's yes, which ones are they, and what is the information that was somehow not presented. Okay. So that will be the assignment number 1. Hopefully it's clear. You simply have to answer those questions in your groups of 4 or 5 people, and that's it. Okay? Very well. Now, for the assignment number 2, you will discover that in the assignment number 2 post, there is another story attached or with a link, and you will see that this time is the last question by Isaac Asimov. We have already read a story of this guy before, the one of the fun they had. So we're going to read another one. You will see that this story that is somehow starts in the present and then starts going into the far future is divided into 7 stages, right? You will see like some lines or some changes in the narrative that will announce that in this very short story that is like 4 pages, I think, or 3, well, there are a lot of changes in this stage. Okay, so it's perceptibly, completely perceptible when you go from stage 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 until the final one. Okay, so I am going to attach, if you please just stop the video right now, go to the assignment number 2 and download the document. The document is called the last question activity, so please do that. Go, download it, open it. If you open it, you will see that there is a chart. Okay, so the chart has some columns and some lines. The lines go from stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, and then in the columns we have some headings. So for example, in the column number 1 says characteristics of the humans, names, appearance, planet, any other relevant information. So you will see that in all or most of the stages you will find human characters, right? You will find humans in there. So you're going to briefly name them and talk about their appearance, in which planet they live, and any other relevant information. Let's imagine that you arrive into a stage in which there are no humans, right? Well, you mentioned that. In this stage there are no humans, instead there are these other creatures or these essence or I don't know. Okay, so that will be for the column number 1. In the column number 2 you will find characteristics of the artificial intelligence, name, size, abilities, any other relevant information. So you will see that also throughout all the stages there is always going to be some sort of artificial intelligence. It can be in the shape of a computer, I don't know, maybe a robot, maybe a machine, something like that, right? Something that is, it has like a super excited intelligence, but that is also artificial, that is not necessarily living. So again, you are going to mention these, the name and the size, because it can be really big or small or, divided into different elements, etc. Okay, that's it. And finally, it says ending of the segment. That is the final column that we're going to find in there. So, very briefly, 1 sentence, 2 sentences, you're going to summarize what happened at the end of that segment. Yes, all stories are self-conclusive. Yes, like let's say that there's something that happens in the end that we can summarize using a couple of sentences, and that would be good enough. Okay, but make sure to see that that you describe the different endings. Let's say that all the endings or most of the endings share a common characteristic, and spoiler alert, you will see that there is a very common repetition of things that is something similar to there is not enough information to answer the question. Okay, all of them finish in that way, but I'm interested in mostly like what happened in other circumstances, right? Let's say that at every stage there is a description of how the world was, people had a problem, so how they were trying to solve, etc. Right? So please don't say or don't copy and paste that answer. Like there is not enough information to answer the question. I mean, you can copy it if you want in the first segment, and then if you want in the stage number 2, you say, and the question was repeated, and the question was repeated, etc. Okay, but I am really interested in what happens besides that. Okay. So guys, that's basically it. Assignment number 2. So we'll have the same characteristics, groups of 4, 3, 2, or 1 person, and you simply complete this. So as you can see, this week are We are dedicated to reading and to analyzing the text itself. Yeah. And with this information, the one from the assignment number 1 and the one from the assignment number 2, we are going to do some really important work on the 7th week. Okay, so please make sure that you do it as completely as possible, because you're going to use this asset in order to work for the next week. Also, I want to remind you guys that we are on the week number 6. The next one is the 7, and that means that we have only two more weeks before the exam. We have the first exam on the week number 8. Okay, so next week is going to be mostly about, with these exercises that we're doing in this one, we're going to use some of these resources to do a lot of practice previous to the test. So please do that. Also remember that your book is going to be part of the test. So let's say that by week 8 you need to have read at least half of the book. Yes. So if your book is 100 pages, so you must read 50 of it at least. And so on. If you were able to read more, well, excellent, even better. But you're required to do that. As well, if you have any other conceptual question, something that needs clarification or something like that, well, please do it. Let me know, ask me or something like that, because time's short, and I'm sure that the test will be here before you know it. Okay. So take that into account. Do not forget it. Don't leave everything for the end, because it may be tricky and not so good. And that's it. Okay. So, well, thank you very much. That was it for this week. As you can see, it's a lot of practice, a lot of time-consuming activities related to reading, analyzing, and producing. So we don't have, let's say, any more conceptual things this week. We're going to focus on this part of the text analysis. Okay. So thank you very much for your usual dedication. See you around, and thank you a lot. Bye bye, House.